Now, to cool off from that, I'm going to talk about a movie that Kat and I watched. I thought it was a little bit of a strange choice to make a documentary, like a biopic about the lady from X-Play, but I'm looking forward to the Adam Sessler one. I think that one's going to be... I thought they would have started with that one. He's kind of like the gaming Oppenheimer. But yeah, so we watched the new Morgan Webb movie. Apparently it's actually Madam Web, and it's about Dakota Johnson doing JOI ASMR into your ear. So we watched. So Madam Web, I guess at this point, infamous Sony Pictures Spider-Man villain universe movie came out, the follow-up to Morbius, and it came out a while ago, but it finally dropped on digital. It was on Netflix, and we were like, we have to watch it now. So we didn't watch Morbius. I don't think anyone watched Morbius. Everyone just pretended to. I have watched Madam Web now, and I have a couple words that I can use to describe the movie. The first one would be shocking. The second one would be awesome. And the third one, and really most important one, would be disconnected. Maybe uncoordinated would be another one. Choppy. Strange. Bizarre. Madam Web is bad in such an interesting way. It's been so long, maybe since like the live action Avatar movie, the M. Night Shyamalan one, that I have watched a film where I felt like absolutely nothing about it worked, and there was a problem with just about every single scene. I watched this movie in like a perpetual state of shock, with my mouth just hanging open and just asking... I think the most consistent question I asked the whole time was, why did she say it like that? Why did they do it like that? I guess to precurse this, is that a verb? Precurse? To precurse something? Might be. I'm using it now. So Madam Web is based off of a character from the Spider-Man comics that nobody really likes, and most people haven't even heard of. I don't know why they haven't done like a Green Goblin movie, or like a Sandman? A Rhino movie? There are so many other Spider-Man characters, like a Black Cat. I don't know, dude. Like, why Morbius and Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter? I don't get it. That Kraven movie's never coming out. I can't wait for it though, if it's anything like this. So Madam Web in the comics is like this old lady who can see into the future and shit, and she's like, actually, Spider-Man, you are not a freak accident and that had to learn to deal with consequences and responsibility that was thrust upon you. You were actually the prophesied embodiment of the spider totem, the ancient mist. It's like some bullshit that some writer was like, oh, if we explain it and add like a gigantic, stupid fucking mythos to our thing, it makes it better. Yeah. So no one really likes Madam Web. She's like an old lady, but for some reason she's Dakota Johnson now because it's like her backstory, I guess. I don't even know how to like really describe the film. I can sort of start with what the basic plot is about. So Madam Web is about Dakota Johnson, who is she is a paramedic in New York City, who is her partner at work, her work partner. They're not dating, although sometimes I kind of thought they were, because there's a scene of them and it feels like I don't know what it's trying to communicate. There's a lot of things in this movie where I really don't know if something was supposed to be funny or scary or what. It kind of fails to communicate what it's like, any of its tone. Her partner at work is Ben Parker, Uncle Ben, but I don't think they can say. I think, do they say Ben Parker? I'm not sure. And she's like a weird asshole for some reason. Like, she comes off what a weird, it really feels like a movie that has multiple different scripts, like versions of the script that are all fighting for each other when I look back on it. But while watching it, the thought occurred to me that it kind of also feels like the first draft to a bad movie. Like the unfinished, shitty version of something that wasn't even going to be good anyway. So she's like a weird, I don't know, she has like this, I feel like there's like parts of the script that are like, she was supposed to be kind of a jerk. And then those got written out in favor of her being like a wide-eyed doe, a female deer. And they kind of clash in these weird moments where sometimes she's one and sometimes she's the other. And it's primarily the latter, but sometimes there's like these pieces of the script from her being like an asshole that are still in there. And it's so weird. And then she has a thing where she almost dies. She falls into the river. She gets resuscitated, potatonated, and now she has a future vision. She can see into the future because she has this like latent magical spider shit from her mom, because the movie opens with this weird cold open of her mom in Peru studying spiders right before she dies. The famous line everybody knows. And where her mom was trying to find some spider, and the dialogue is like immediately atrocious because she says these spiders are able to supercharge, the venom supercharges a host's cellular structure, whatever the fuck that means. And then the guy, her bodyguard, kills her, or he shoots her to steal the spider. And he's like, oh god, dude, it's so hard to even like describe it because I keep wanting to go off into tangents about all the fucking weird things that are wrong with every scene. Like all of his dialogue is ADR'd. It's so weird. It's all dubbed. It's like all dubbed in post. It's so strange. So he shoots her and she gets taken in by these spider warriors. There's spider people. And they take her to like a weird pool, and they have a spider bite her, and then she has like a birth in the pool. She didn't look pregnant. She didn't look very pregnant, but I guess she's just ready to go. She's just ready to like hit the road on that shit. And somehow the baby is Dakota Johnson, and she somehow gets to America. I have no idea. She isn't raised by the tribe or anything. They're just like, hey, let's just take her to the airport and ship her off somewhere. It just weird. I don't understand. So Dakota Johnson has these latent future spider powers, which is just like a super, I guess it's supposed to be like a super jacked up version of the spider sense, where like Peter Parker can like vaguely see into the future, but she's like, oh, that's like her main thing, but she doesn't have any of the other like physical, like she can't crawl on walls. Oh, there's this like embarrassing scene. It feels like a prank on Dakota Johnson where she's researching the spider and she's like, what if a human could crawl up a wall? And then she like tries to climb up the wall and like falls over, and it's so awkward. It's so weird. It just happens. There's like no music. Oh fuck, the arm of my chair is falling apart. Maybe I could have seen that with my Madam Web vision. So she is getting these premonitions. She's getting these premonitions, like the basic outline of the plot. She's getting these premonitions, and she doesn't know what's going on. She's slowly starting. There's like 4 scenes dedicated to the exact same information, that she has these future visions. And she sees that this guy, what is his name? The villain's name is Ezekiel Sims, who's played by this actor who I think is otherwise, I think he's been in some decent stuff. It's a different topic. He never wears shoes. Why doesn't he wear shoes in the movie? Like, they never explain it. The character in the comics is always barefoot, but he just shows up and he's just not wearing shoes, but you can only tell in like 2 shots where he's meant to be in like normal clothes, but he's barefoot, and it's never lingered upon. And I'm like, would it be weirder if they had like a close-up shot to show that he's barefoot? Or is it's weird? It's also weird for them to, it should just be like a thing. It's just a thing that we're like, is he barefoot? You can barely see at the bottom of the screen as he's walking somewhere. It's so fucking weird. And he's gonna like kill these girls. He's gonna kill these teenage girls because in the future they get superpowers and they're going to kill him for some reason. And he has visions of this because he's the guy who stole the spider from the mom and has the future visions. And so he can see the future, but he's also got superpowers, like spider powers. And there's this, oh my god, and he's gonna kill them. And Madam Web is like, I gotta save these kids by kidnapping them. And then she kidnaps them, these children. And then then the rest of the movie is him hunting after them while she's trying to protect them. And then he gets killed by the Pepsi logo. I'm not kidding. He gets killed by Pepsi. Okay. So here's all the fucking weird shit. Okay. When I say disconnected, I can get into what I mean. I think that's the core problem with just about everything in the film. So, number one, the plot beats. The plot beats all feel extremely separate from each other. So we paused the movie at one point because Kat like got up for something, or for some reason we paused the movie, and I was like, how are we 50 minutes into the movie? I feel like nothing has happened. And I realized I was going over it in my head, and I realized that the first half of this film, the first act of the film is like an hour long. And it feels like the first act of, like, before the actual plot gets going, which I would consider to be the four characters together. You could say that either the inciting incident is her falling off the bridge, but that is like really, that feels like kind of minor. I don't know. It's so dragged out. The real inciting incident where like the actual conflict gets introduced into the plot happens an hour into the 2-hour movie, where she starts like protecting these girls. The first hour is a completely unnecessary cold open because we see a recreation of that scene anyway later when she has a weird vision when she goes to fucking Peru for 15 minutes. That's a different thing. Completely unnecessary cold open to explain the backstory about this shit because I don't know. Establishing her as a paramedic. She has the thing where she falls off the bridge. Okay, cool. The plot's happening. And then the next, like, 30 minutes, at least, are spent on establishing the future visions that she's getting. I'm not kidding you. There are, like, 3 or 4 scenes, back to back to back, that are where the entire, like, all the information you get from them is she can see the future, but she can't control it, so she doesn't know what's happening. And the first time it happens, the one thing I will give this movie is that the trick is actually a little bit neat. It got me the first time or two, and I thought it was kind of cool. Where essentially it's like a deja vu thing, where she doesn't realize that she's seeing the future, but she'll be in a situation, and then suddenly, you know, she'll be talking to someone, and then suddenly she like, there's like and it like flips back. There's some kind of like weird editing thing. And then we're like, you know, 30 seconds ago in movie time. And the character is saying the same thing again. And she's confused. Like, wait, you already told me that. Or like, what are you talking? And she's confused. And it kind of got me the first few times. And then you realize very quickly what's going on. And you're like, okay, time to move on. And then they have the same scene 4 times. So there's like one of her, like right after she has her near-death experience where she recalls something when she's talking to her. She gets the deja vu effect when she's talking to her, to Ben Parker. Then she goes to a baby shower for Ben's sister, Mary Parker, where they play this weird game of like copyright chicken, where you start to figure out through process of elimination what they are and aren't allowed to say about Spider-Man. So like they're allowed to use certain characters, but it's very clear that they can't say Spider-Man. They can't say Peter Parker. They can't even say Peter. They can't say like Spider-Sense. They can't say the classic oh my god. They can't say with great power comes great responsibility. It's a different thing. Oh my god, that's later. They can't say they can't do most of that stuff. And they're playing, it's so weird because they're playing a game at the party of like, guess the baby's name, and no one can get it. And right as Mary is about to say Peter, like you can see her mouth forming the P, a balloon pops and scares everyone. And then there's like a deja vu thing. There's a deja vu thing where like it happens again. And then there's, oh my god, this scene is so fucking weird. So first of all, like the beginning of that whole section is them showing up to the thing and someone's grilling outside. And for some reason, Dakota Johnson is just really, really like upset about the fact that the guy is like pressing the grease out of the burgers on the grill. And she's like, you're pressing all the grease out. And it's delivered in such a weird way. And the editing is so weird. There's like if this was like a full video, there would be entire sections dedicated to like the dialogue, the editing, the cinematography. Like, okay, we're just on the plot right now. There's this weird thing where she's like, they play a game of like, you write something down on a note, on like a piece of paper, and it's your best memory with your mom. And Dakota Johnson's character intentionally writes nothing, so that when Mary Parker like grabs hers, she's like, oh, you didn't write anything. She's like, it's because I fucking hate my mom. She's a piece of shit, and she died because she was more concerned about studying spiders like a fucking bitch instead of her kid. And like it gets like really awkward and kind of tense. And she's like, actually, she died. She died during childbirth. And like she points to her pregnant friend. She points to Mary while talking about how her own mother died during childbirth. And Mary has like a visible, like negative, like, oh, like what the, why is she such a jerk? What the hell? It's such a weird, what? Like she set up this entire, like she could have just said like, I didn't really know my mom. She could have just chosen to abstain. Or what I find weird is that Mary like maybe didn't know. I guess they might not know each other very well. But if fucking Dakota Johnson like she should have just been like, nah, I don't. It's a little awkward. I don't really talk to my mom. But no, instead she sets up this fucking thing to be like a drama queen about how she hates her mom during like her friend's sister's baby shower. What a fucking weirdo. And then there's like a scene of her in her apartment watching A Christmas Carol, like an old black and white version of it. I don't know what year. And like talking to herself, and she goes, sorry, Scrooge, but you can't change anything. Which is a weird line. For her to not be aware of her future powers and still say, and she, oh god, it's so weird. That's just like one of those, all these like little lines and decisions of like, why is she talking to herself? So she has a scene where like a bird flies into her window, and then she gets deja vu, and she like opens the window and the bird still flies in. It's like, oh, and then she's at a scene. It is literally 4 different times. So there's a scene. Oh yeah, it's after the baby shower. None of the shit matters. So one of the reasons that all of this feels so disconnected is that none of these events lead into each other in any kind of organic way. Just the scene stops and then the next scene starts. And you know, you can obviously do that in a movie, but like it's like that for an hour. Like nothing feels like it connects to each other. None of the events feel like they lead logically from one to the next. There's like no flow to the story at all. It's just she's at this, and then that ends, and then now she's here, and then now it's here, and then now we're here, and we're doing this. The only time it happens is when they get called out of the baby shower because there's an emergency that they have to respond to. And she has a vision. Oh my God, the CPR. So she's performing CPR on this guy who's like been in an accident at the fireworks and Pepsi factory, which I'm not joking about. That's a real thing. That's in the movie. And okay, so CPR in this is so weird. In this movie treats CPR like it's a healing spell because it is like, it seems like that's the extent of the screenwriter's knowledge of like first aid techniques. And I find that really funny because I have taken basic first aid several times as part of Boy Scouts. And not only is the like first aid stuff in this movie really like stupid and simple, it's also poorly depicted. Like the CPR she's doing is very bad. She's putting like no pressure on the guy's chest. She doesn't have like, they don't focus on like the actual rhythm that like you need to like pump that shit. The specific BPM that I was told was you have to do it to the beat of Staying Alive, or depending on how confident you're feeling, Another One Bites the Dust. Bum, bum, bum. Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 bum. And then like every 30 or so pumps, you do the mouth to mouth. She never does. She's just lightly pressing on the chest. Like, it's the worst looking CPR. And it might be because she just doesn't want to hurt the other actor she's performing on, but like, it's so goofy. And it's also the only thing she knows how to do. So her boss or whatever is like, I'm going to get in the ambulance and drive somewhere. And she gets a vision of something horrible happening. She's like, I don't think you should do that. And he's like, nah, fuck, shut up. And he gets in the ambulance and he starts driving away. And there's like this one shot take where he starts driving and the camera pans as she's walking away. They're going in opposite directions. And he's just driving down the road to seemingly nowhere. Like, it doesn't look like the road goes anywhere. And a full semi-truck just smashes into the fucking ambulance. It's like a comedy shot. We laughed really hard. And they pull him out of the ambulance. And she starts doing CPR on him. And it's like, he got hit by a fucking truck. There's like 100 things wrong with him before he's not breathing. He probably has like 20 broken bones, probably has like a severe head trauma, possibly internal bleeding, fucking pumping on his chest. Probably just gonna make it worse. One of the things that you learn in first aid training, like on the spot first aid, is oftentimes you're not like gonna be saving someone's life. You're just keeping them alive for long enough for actual like emergency services to get there. An emergency services job is most of the time to just take them to a hospital really fast. Like, that's usually how, like, no, you need to get someone under, like, a specialist. Like, a real doctor who can treat them and examine them and give them drugs that are specific to their needs to, like, keep their heart going and shit like that. And emergency service, like, paramedics and stuff, their main job is like to basically just they're obviously like more equipped and they have stuff and like more extensive training, but it's like keeping them alive to get to it. But she's just fucking pumping on his chest. Like, no, what you would do in this situation is do not fucking touch him. Don't touch the body. Get him maybe like laid out on the ground or something on like probably on a stretcher. And just, I guess, call another ambulance because this one's fucked. Like, that's what you would do. But no, she's doing CPR because that's like the only thing that the screenwriter knows about first aid. Really funny. So literally, so this deja vu thing happens 4 different times. Nothing about it. You don't learn anything different. You get it after the second time. They should have done it like there should have been like one scene where she gets a bunch of them in a row or something. And then the next one where they like ratchet it up and then it's like the life or death stakes. and she realizes that she can like prevent stuff or something like that. Like just condense it down into that. The audience will understand. Oh my god. Oh my god. It was a huge burp. And then that is intercut with scenes of the villain going about like starting his plan. The villain is horrible. So yeah, I guess to wrap up the plot thing, very often scenes will just start and stop. Characters will say, I need to go somewhere. And then you don't really see what they're doing. They just go somewhere. A thought will strike them, and then they will just go somewhere. Things just kind of happen, right? It feels like a weak critique, but the scene starts or a character makes a decision, and there is seemingly not much of like a real there's no momentum to the film. It's just this thing, it stops and then it starts and then it stops and then it starts. We're in the woods. I need to go somewhere. I'll be back. She leaves. You don't see what she's doing. The characters are like, we should go somewhere. And then they go do something. And then she comes back. And she's like, It ends up feeling really disjointed. And just weird. Right? So all this is intercut in the first hour. That's why it feels like nothing happens. Right? So in the first hour of the villain, Ezekiel Sims, this weird scene of him, you never really figure out, like, I think he's supposed to be an evil businessman, but like you don't really know like what he does or how he got it. He keeps referring to like all the things that he's built, and there's like kind of an implication that the spider allowed him to do it, but he doesn't explain why. You don't really see what he even does that's evil on like a grand scale. Beside, like, he obviously does bad things with like killing the mom and stealing the spider, and he's gonna like kill these girls and stuff, but like you don't really see like what is he actually trying to protect. Does he have like an evil business or something? You just don't know. And there's this strange implication, I feel like is it that the future visions that he gets from the spider powers have helped him make better business decisions? I don't know. He's like going to an opera, and then he meets this woman, and then they're in bed, and he's having a dream that these girls in bad looking costumes, it looks like a CW show, are going to kill him and steal his spider, and there's just ADR dialogue of him going, "Where's my spider? Oh, they took my spider!" Like he's like a baby reaching for his toy. And he wakes up, and he's like, "Do you know what it's like to have a vision of your death every night?" And all of his dialogue is dubbed in post. It is all dubbed. And it is weird. It is really weird. The villain, he doesn't feel like he's in the movie for that reason. Like, he doesn't feel like he's physically in the scene, because the words coming out of the actor's mouth don't match what he's saying. It doesn't, like, visibly, there's moments where his mouth isn't moving and he's supposed to be talking. There's points where he's like, they CGI his mouth. Like, I couldn't believe it. There's so many scenes of him from like behind, like they shoot it from behind his head, and it's clearly dubbed in. Like it sounds like just me talking into a microphone. There's no like room, like when someone speaks, right? When someone speaks in a room on set, there's like a natural, your ear picks up on these subtle things, like the natural echo of the room, or the slight difference in audio channels of like a little more on the left, a little more on the right side. But when he's just talking into a mic, it feels like he's just narrating a YouTube video. It feels like third person narration. So he never feels, there's this disconnect between what the character is saying and what you're seeing on screen, and it's very disorienting. A lot of people have commented on it that it's super strange. And like his decision making is so weird. I guess he's met up with this woman who's a secret spy from the NSA so that he can kill her. and steal her super secret 2003 era NSA technology, because this takes place in 2003. And he says this line that's amazing, where he goes, "It's a good thing that it's a good thing that you did not know that today was the day you were going to die." And it's like, okay. And he's like in his secret evil high-rise center room, where he's got like a secretary with NSA technology that he got somehow, I guess. Like, he got a code from this lady he killed or something. And what he's done is he has made police sketches based off of his dreams and put them into the NSA database to find out what the girls look like 5 years younger. And he finds their identities. It is the weirdest thing. It is like just straight pulled out of his ass. I don't know why it couldn't have. I don't know. I have no clue. And the dialogue is just amazing. It's just awesome. The secretary goes, "These are just teenagers," and he goes, "They're teenagers now, but in the future they will have powers and they're going to kill me. I have worked so hard for it to build up everything that I have, and I'm not going to let that be taken away from me." And it's delivered exactly like that, where you can tell that there's like multiple takes that they're like jamming together, and the audio is edited in such a strange way where it feels like he starts the next sentence way too fast because they're just mashing it together to get it to vaguely fit when he's on screen. Oh, just like hilariously weird. just like so fucking funny. I don't know like what he is or what he wants. So he starts like he's gonna go. He finds out that they're all on a subway at the same time for some reason, on the same subway train that Madame Web is on. And he goes to attack them, and she sees a vision of him attacking these random girls that she doesn't know. So she tells him they have to get off the train, but in her vision, he's in like his normal clothes, sans shoes, of course. And then she gets them off the train, and he's walking. So I guess his plan was this like public-facing businessman was just going to walk into like a public train in broad daylight and just like grab these young girls by the neck and just choke slam them to death in a train car. That was his plan. It wasn't like, oh, he's gonna lure them away or he's gonna lure them off and then kill them in secrecy. No, he's just gonna fucking like crush their throats in public. Okay, so she gets them all off the train by like essentially kidnapping them. And he's like, he sees them off the train and he starts like, he's in the train, he sees them get off. The train starts moving and he starts running. He starts running through the train like that's gonna do anything. And then suddenly you just pan out and he is somehow outside of the train car now in a full evil Spider-Man suit crawling on the ceiling. Like 10 seconds later. So he has this suit to conceal his identity, but not when he was going to murder them. The suit to conceal his identity was the backup plan. He is somehow able to change into this thing within like 10 seconds. And the shot of him, revealing him crawling down the ceiling is like hilarious. The way that it's cut is like this is like the reveal of your big villain's like costume and shit. And it is shot in like the least dynamic way possible. It just kind of happens. That's how I describe so much stuff in this movie just kind of happens visually. And it's this like, what? Like there's no gravitas. There's no cool dynamic angle. There's no like, oh wait, what's that? And then like reveal of the thing. He's just there and crawling freaky style along the ceiling. So weird. They keep referring to him as Ceiling Guy, which is hilarious. None of the dialogue sounds good. None of it sounds good, either in writing or in delivery. So they have to like hide out now. She steals a taxi cab. Don't worry. She takes the license plate off of the taxi cab. And she's driving it like that for like the whole movie. She's just driving a stolen taxi cab. Like, she gets back from her fucking trip to Peru later and she just pulls up in the taxi cab like that. Oh yeah, this is just my car now. Not like that's a super identifiable thing that has like a number on the side where they can find the specific car that you're driving. Yeah, not weird at all. Not conspicuous at all. So she like leaves them in the woods for some reason because it's like safer. Okay. And she's like, I'm gonna go, okay. And these three girls, one of them is like, can you bring us some sandwiches? Can you get us some sandwiches? And I think that line is really funny. And she like leaves, and we have like all this dialogue of them like trying to develop these characters and build some kind of rapport with them, between them. None of it really works. None of them feel very distinct besides what they're like technically what their backstories are. One girl is like nerd girl. One girl is kind of like a spoiled rich kid. And the other girl is, what does Sydney Sweeney do? She, is too attractive for the age of the character she's playing, is what she does in this movie. Oh, we'll talk about that later. So they're like in the woods and they're like, let's go. There's like a diner nearby or something. And they just walk. You have no idea like the place of anything that's going on. They just kind of walk through the woods and the soundtrack starts playing Toxic by Britney Spears. And you're like, why is that playing right now? And then they walk out into, into like a clearing to reveal like a big diner, like just a roadside diner. And then they walk in and the speakers in the diner was playing Toxic by Britney Spears. So it was meant to be like an in-universe, like diegetic song. Like it was supposed to be playing in universe, but they started playing it like 30 seconds too early. So it just seemed like it was supposed to be background music for them walking through the dark woods. And then they walk in and it suddenly gets like a little bit louder. And there's like crowd ambience added to it. It's so strange. Madam Web like comes back after doing something. I don't know what. And she's like, where'd they go? Where did they go? So she starts like, she sees like a vision of the spider guy coming in and like killing them. So she's like, I'm going to drive. And then she sees gets another vision of the guy killing her. So she's like, I'm going to hit him with my fucking car. The scene where he comes in and attacks them is hilarious. It's shot so bizarrely. There is a hilarious moment of him just walking on the ceiling casually for like a split second. It made me laugh really hard. So she's like, she hits him with her car. His weakness, he like fucking like ragdolls and like a Gmod thing and like smacks into the wall. It's really funny. And then she's like, we gotta go somewhere else. So she drops them off with with Ben. And then she's like, I need to, oh no, God, there's a scene in between. The best scene in the movie where they're at like a motel. They're at a motel. And she's like, I need to drop you guys off with your parent. This is getting too fucking crazy. And they all dump their dramatic backstories of why their parents hate them. And why they would rather just, I guess, live with this woman, this insane woman that they've known for a day. And they're all going through it. And so one girl's like, yeah, my parents, they're like rich business people, but when I was born, like, they don't even want me. They just want to be rich and shit. And the other, I don't even remember, like, what Sydney Sweetie's was. She's just like, my dad doesn't like me. And then there's, like, the third girl who is, like, something, I forget what her first name is, but it was, like, she says it, like, my name is Valencia Corazon. She, like, Corazon. She, like, really, she's dropping hints, that she's, like, Latinx. And I was like joking. I'm like, and she's like the only one left. She's like the only one left in this like round of just why our parents hate us and why we can't go home to them. And I was like just making a dumb joke where I was like, my parents got deported. And as soon as I said that, she goes, my dad got deported. And we couldn't fucking believe it. I couldn't believe that was actually what they went with. It was so funny. It was hilarious. So then they have this scene where she's like, okay, but I need to teach you, if you're going to be with me and we're going to go on a crazy Madam Webbing adventure, I need to show you guys how to do CPR, the one thing she knows how to do. And the best scene in the movie is where she's demonstrating them CPR and she's teaching them how to do it. And it starts out with Dakota Johnson, who, okay, I'm going to preface this by saying that all of these actresses are over the age of 18, and I was never under the impression that they were children for a single moment in the movie, even though they're supposed to be. So we're going to give me the pass on this one, and I'm going to be a pig for a second. Oink, oink, okay? Dakota Johnson is like, we're going to practice on this pillow on the floor. And she's like, you put your hands on it, and then you like push, and you just keep pushing. And the way that it's shot, it's from like you can't see the actual pillow that they're practicing on. It's just like from roughly the waist up, or like the elbows up kind of height. And it's just Dakota Johnson with like her arms down, like together, and like bouncing up and down and like breathing. And there's like no sound effects. There's no music. It's just like the sounds of like breathing and her bouncing up and down on something that you can't see. And I was like, hang on. So hang on. Keep going. Keep going. And she's like, okay, now you girls try. And like the next one like gets up and it's shot the exact same way of her just bouncing up and down. And I was like, and like, then after like a little while, she goes like, I'm tired. You take over. And she's like, okay, I'll take over. And then it's like the next girl. And I was like, okay. Okay. It's like, Sydney, do you want to take over? Do you want to? And she takes over. I was like, I don't think I didn't really get the Sydney Sweeney hype until that scene. And I was like, hang on. I think there's something to this. It's like, I'm just saying that like, if I was the camera operator, on set, I might have been like, I might have gone, boom was in the shot. For every shot, actually, we gotta do the whole thing over again. Yeah, we gotta do the whole sequence over. Yeah, let's just do this one again. Yeah. Okay, I'm done with it. I'm done with that. Best scene in the movie. What the fuck happens? So they go live with like Uncle Ben, who is not yet an uncle, and everything seems to be going great. But she's like, I need to go, and she goes and investigates her mom's notes, and she says, I hope the spiders were worth it, Mom, which is awesome. And then she's like, I have to go to Peru. And they're like, what? I have to go to Peru, and so she goes to Peru, and there is just a 15-minute break where she goes to Peru, finds the exact tree that her mom took a picture at, hasn't changed at all in like 25 years at least, 25 maybe 30 years at least. Same tree, place looks exactly the same. And then she just fucking turns around and there's like the guy who saved her mom just standing there, and he's like, what's up? And then she has like ayahuasca trip in like the spider cave, and he's like, and he says the line. And he says the line, he says a line to her. He's like talking about how amazing her power is and how strong, like how crazy powerful it is for her to be able to see the future like that. And he says, "I'm not shitting you. I'm hang on. I'm going to go look up the exact line." Madam Web. He says, fuck, I have to find the specific one. With great, so he says, when you take responsibility, you will gain great powers. It's so funny. It's like, oh, my jaw dropped when they just flipped it around. I couldn't believe it. So she goes back. Oh, no. So they're at home. They're with Uncle Ben, having a good time, having character growth off screen, I guess. And now they're all besties. And Mary Parker goes into labor. Her water's broken. Ben has to drive her to the hospital. And also the girls are coming for some reason. The people who are specifically not supposed to leave the house because this evil Spider-Man is tracking them. They're gonna go along with him. Sure, why not? We need a reason, because movie has to happen. We need a reason for them to get out of the house and for them to be extra vulnerable with like a pregnant woman in the car. So of course he somehow finds out that they're in this car based off of something. Like what? How does he actually find out? Like a camera, like a 2003 security camera spots one of them. Like awesome. Okay, great. So he's like chasing them and he's not, oh my God, doing Spider-Man without the web slinging. And he just has to jump around. Looks really silly. And Madam Web pulls into the driveway in the same taxi, the stolen taxi she's been driving the entire movie. And she's like, "What's going on? Where'd everybody go?" And then she has like a future vision of the villain attacking them. And she's like, I gotta go save. So she steals an ambulance. An active ambulance that was going to save someone's life. This trained paramedic steals the ambulance, drives into a parking garage, and somehow predicts exactly where, she knows exactly where the villain's going to be standing. Oh, there's this awesome shot where, oh, no, hang on, this happens in a second. And she drives through like a concrete barricade out of the parking garage and just hits him with the car. His weakness is being hit with cars, I guess. It's awesome. So they all get in the ambulance with her. I guess Mary Parker goes to the hospital or something. And she's driving and the guy gets on top of the ambulance and they take out the defibrillator. And they press it against the roof, against the ceiling, and it electrifies the roof. I'm serious. It electrifies the roof when he's standing on top of it, and it gives him an electric shock that knocks him off. It's so trashy. It's awesome. It is so trash. So she's like, I know where to go. I had a dream about a big S. I'm going to go to the fireworks and Pepsi factory from earlier in the movie, and we're going to light all the fireworks up, and everything's going to be exploding, and the villain's going to chase us up to the roof, and we're going to call in a helicopter, and the helicopter's going to get exploded, and she's... Oh, God. So the villain is like, yeah, I fucking have gotten you, and he outmaneuvers them or something, and all three of the girls are in a precarious situation. And she has a flashback to the spider shaman guy saying, you can be in 3 places at once. or something. And then a previously unheard of power is unlocked for her, where she is able to just like split her body into 3 different bodies, like spirit forms, and then they all separately save the individual girls from falling into the firework pit. It just kind of happens, and then the villain gets crushed by stuff, even though he's been hit by a fucking car, like a whole ambulance too, and he's just walked it off. He gets crushed under some stuff and pinned down, and for some reason his super strong spider strength doesn't work. And then the Pepsi P falls on him from the logo, and it crushes him and kills him. Which again, he's been hit by an ambulance dropping out of the sky. And then Madam Web falls into the water really hard, and I guess breaks her back. And then, she gets hit in the face with a firework underwater, and it blinds her, and that's how she becomes blind. And they fish her out of the water, and then guess what? Set up, payoff, motherfuckers. They do CPR on her. Incredible. And then she's like in the hospital, and she's she's like all blind, and she goes like, someone says like, oh yeah, Ben, he's not really cut out for all this uncle stuff yet. And then she smirks at the camera and she goes, oh, he will be. Which implies that she knows that he's going to die in the future, and she's just not going to do anything to prevent that. Like, you know that Spider-Man would have happened either way, right? Like, he didn't get the powers because of the uncle dying. That was just like a tragic element of his backstory. And it taught him an important lesson, but like, this is like your friend of many years and your professional colleague that you're just gonna let die. Okay, sure. Yeah. I got on the story for so long. It's fucking bizarre. Yeah, just weirdly disconnect. Like, again, there's just a 15-minute interstitial, and then she goes back, and it's like, and then they're gone, and then the water broke, and then they have to go for some reason, and then things happen. This editing and cinematography kind of combine in this horrible concoction to get back to the whole point about being disconnected. For some reason, the director just like doesn't understand the 180-degree rule. I'm not trying to sound smart because I understand basic film, like film 101. I haven't even taken filmmaking 101. I've just watched YouTube videos of people who have. The 180-degree rule is a thing in film where you want to keep the placement of characters consistent so that the audience isn't confused about where people are in relation to each other. So you always want to, like, in a scene, you're going to have one character on the left side and one character on the right side. And if for in like a reverse shot thing where you're doing dialogue or whatever, like behind one character's shoulder and then behind the other character's shoulder type of thing, you have to keep the sides of the screen that they're on consistent. Like, this character is, when it's behind their back, they're always like on the left side of the screen. When we swap, it's the other way around. This character's always on the right side of the screen. And as long as you keep that consistent, the audience doesn't get confused about what's happening. But like messing with that and breaking that can be confusing for the audience. So if they do switch places, it either has to happen on camera and the audience has to see it happen, or it has to be some very deliberate artistic decision to kind of intentionally throw the visuals off. This movie just breaks it all the time. Like, there's a scene of her going to rescue a guy like who's hanging off of a bridge. This is like when she falls into the water off the bridge and gets her future powers. And the way it's shot, first of all, incredibly frenetic and weird. The movie constantly does these strange digital zooms when things get intense. That is very, like, the first time it happened, I was like, what the fuck is that? What is that? So it's edited in this very frenetic way where it's no shot is allowed to linger long enough to establish really what's happening or the motion, like the motion of events. Like, she gets out and she's moving to the right, and then suddenly it cuts and she's moving to the left, and then she's like going forward, and it's weird. It's cutting really fast. You get no time to sit to actually understand the motion of what's going on. Sometimes she's going into the left, sometimes she's going into the car from the right, sometimes she's coming in from this one direction, and this is all within like a less than 30-second sequence. It's like actually really incompetent, and I have no idea if that is up to the editing or if that was just all they had to work with and it was just shot poorly. If it was just if the director just didn't plan out the shots very well, like it wasn't storyboarded. Stuff like that is all over the movie. Even just in simple dialogue scenes. Like when the Ezekiel Sims evil Spider-Man guy is in bed with the NSA agent, and it's just a simple dialogue scene, shot, reverse shot, but there's just something very uncomfortable about the way that like they keep switching what side the characters are on. And like they're both on the left or they're both on the right now. And it's really weird. Just like very basic kind of lack of competence things that I find strange. Yeah, I guess that the edit, I would have to go rewatch it to really pick through the editing, but the audio editing is really strange. Like the way that certain lines come in, sometimes it feels like they come in too fast. Sometimes it feels like there's too much of a gap. The delivery of the dialogue itself is very stilted and awkward. The lines are weird. The lines are weird sounding. A lot of like heavy exposition dumps or just weird, unnatural sounding dialogue. Like it sounds amateurish. Like it sounds like amateur fiction. And then, and then it's also delivered in a weird way. Like it feels like, so the adage I've heard is, if an actor's performance is bad, they might be a bad actor. If every performance in the movie is bad, that's the director's fault. They do not know how to direct actors. And it really feels like the director does not know what to do. Like Dakota Johnson feels like she doesn't know how to play her character. That was something I picked up on like at least like 30 minutes into the film. Like every single line is delivered like she can't really commit to an emotion or a personality. Like she has no idea where the main character is supposed to be even coming from. Like what is her disposition? She's just kind of, again, like this weird wide-eyed thing the whole time because she looks clueless. She looks clueless like the entire movie. The other three main characters don't really have that much material to work with beyond very surface level characterization, and just weird delivery. Can you get us some sandwiches? Why did you say it like that? Ooh, oh my neck, Jesus. Yeah, it's like a poor script combined with poor directing, shot in a strange, ineffective way, and edited maybe as best as they can, but so piecemeal that it's just weird. Like when I say every single scene has something wrong with it, every scene has something just weird. Like, how did this end up in the finished product? And I was reading a little bit about it. Apparently, the film is going to be completely different in its initial phases. In fact, one of the reasons that Dakota Johnson, I feel like, and a lot of the actresses look so like they don't want to be there is because apparently they signed on to basically a completely different movie. The original concept for the script was actually going to be inspired by Terminator, and the idea was that this main Madam Web character and these three girls were going to be protecting Mary Parker, who's pregnant with the future Spider-Man, from, like, I don't know if he was a time traveler or if he could just see the future, but Ezekiel Sims, right? He's trying to kill Mary Parker, and they're trying to protect this pregnant woman. It's like an escort mission. Or the Transporter with Dakota Johnson. And that sounds like a much more fun movie. It could have been bad, but I at least see how, the idea of someone who can see bits of the future but can't quite control that power, and maybe you see a slightly wrong version of the future or something like that. Versus someone else who can see the future as well, and they're like battling and trying to protect this person who's super vulnerable. That could be like a fun script. That could be a fun concept. And apparently it was completely changed into like whatever the fuck this is supposed to be. Just like this like complete train wreck. Every car wrecked. Geez. The last line is hilarious. Madam Web is now in a wheelchair and blind. And she looks at the camera and she goes, the best thing about the future is it hasn't happened yet. That's their big epic line. This movie's amazing. It's really, really shitty. But if you're like me and you love watching weird, bad movies, this is a good one. It's not bad in a boring way. It's bad in it's like The Room. It's genuinely like The Room, or I was comparing it to like a Channel Awesome movie. It feels like Linkara made this, but with like a big budget. And that might even be an insult to Linkara. I think Linkara would have given a better performance. I'm not even kidding. If it was just him directing, if he was able to direct himself. I would highly recommend it. I think it's awesome, and if Craven is anything like this, I heard Morbius was much less interesting. If Craven is anything like this, I kind of want to go see it. I'm craving some more, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think that's just about everything I have to say about Madam Web. Amazing film. Thank you, Sony, so much for blessing us with it.